Last weekend, migrants began moving into Wright College on the northwest side. Officials say that's reduced the number of migrants at police stations from more than 800 last week to fewer than 640 now.
Several media outlets spoke with migrant workers from Texas who recently arrived in Chicago. They described to the media their exhausting three-day bus ride. They claimed that food was in short supply during the whole journey. The West Loop Greyhound station was their last destination. A widely shared video featuring hundreds of buses traveling to Chicago has garnered a lot of attention. Let's explore the background to this wave of migration, look at Chicago's response, and learn more about the steps the Biden administration is taking. Challenges faced by Chicago suburbs. Since August 2022, Chicago has found itself at the forefront of a complex and dynamic situation involving a surge in migrant arrivals, presenting both opportunities and obstacles for the city and its residents. Melissa McMahon, a dedicated city council member from Woodstock, Illinois, and her daughter recently encountered an unexpected scene near the local train station. Their attention was drawn to an unfamiliar sight: a white tour bus bearing a Texas license plate. Despite the absence of scheduled events, approximately 30 families of asylum seekers, predominantly from Venezuela, disembarked into freezing 30-degree weather. McMahon's swift action, alerting city officials and the police chief, highlighted the urgent need for assistance, especially given the lack of warm clothing among the arrivals. This incident sheds light on a broader trend wherein Texas officials have resorted to directing buses carrying asylum seekers toward cities like Chicago and New York to bypass local regulations designed to manage the influx of migrants. Over 636 buses have arrived in Chicago alone since August 2022, placing strain on resources and posing significant challenges for local authorities in effectively handling the unexpected influx. The initiative by Texas Governor Greg Abbott, a Republican, aims to challenge the Biden administration's border and immigration policies by redirecting asylum seekers towards cities governed by Democratic administrations. However, in response to the enforcement of regulations in cities like Chicago, buses are now dropping off migrants in surrounding suburbs, some located up to 90 minutes away. Local authorities, including Woodstock, are considering implementing their own ordinances to regulate the arrival of buses carrying migrants. Despite concerns about potential increases in crime, migrants continue to arrive in Chicago, driven by hopes of a better life. Recent interceptions of buses carrying migrants, including individuals seeking safety and those with prior criminal records, have sparked debates about the city's ability to balance assistance for those in need with regulatory compliance. Managing the increasing number of migrants poses a significant challenge for Chicago, with leaders facing pressure to secure sufficient resources and accommodation. Approximately 15,000 migrants are housed in shelters across the city, with an additional 550 individuals awaiting available beds. Additional resources such as cots are being deployed to shelters across Chicago to address the shortage of accommodation. The strain on resources extends beyond shelters, with some migrants resorting to makeshift arrangements such as tents or seeking temporary refuge at O'Hare International Airport. Managing this influx requires a collaborative effort from various stakeholders, including local authorities, community organizations, and federal agencies, to ensure the welfare and integration of migrants into society. The multifaceted challenges surrounding the migrant influx in Chicago underscore the need for a comprehensive and compassionate response from all levels of government and society. By addressing the immediate needs of migrants while navigating regulatory challenges, Chicago can uphold its commitment to assisting those in need while maintaining order and security within its borders. Chicago and New York response. Let's see the response of Chicago and New York amidst all of this. In mid-November, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson introduced a new rule targeting what he called rogue buses that have been coming since 2022. These charter buses often arrived late at night or early in the morning, sometimes on weekends, and dropped passengers off in various places, confusing city officials and a scramble for resources. The ordinance in Chicago demands that passenger bus companies from outside the area apply at least 2 business business days before arrival. It also limits the number of hourly arrivals and restricts drop-offs to weekdays at a specific location between 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Those who break the rules may face fines and have their buses taken away. New York Mayor Eric Adams followed suit with a similar ordinance a few weeks later. Chicago has lodged 95 complaints against bus operators carrying migrant passengers and confiscated 3 vehicles for not following the rules, according to the mayor's office. The Chicago Department of Transportation has received 27 applications so far. Cassio Mendoza, a spokesperson for Johnson, stated that multiple rogue buses arrived during the Christmas and New Year's holidays, each carrying up to 500 asylum seekers daily, and dropping them in various places across Chicagoland, violating the city's safety protocols. Mayor Johnson emphasized the city's welcoming nature, but stressed the need for cooperation and resources from state and federal governments. Renee Ease, a spokesperson for Abbott, criticized the Democratic mayors, accusing them of hypocrisy due to their sanctuary city policies. Texas officials claim asylum seekers choose to go to cities like Chicago or New York, signing voluntary consent waivers. Officials in Illinois cities receiving migrants confirmed that they usually continue their journey to Chicago. Similarly, in New York, most asylum seekers arriving at transit hubs in New Jersey continue on to New York City. Tyler Jones, a spokesperson for New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy, confirmed this transit pattern. Although asylum seekers in Chicago's suburbs typically stay for less than an hour, their presence has prompted some municipalities to enact bus-regulating ordinances. Woodstock City Council member McMahon sees the issue as both complex and simple, emphasizing the need to ensure migrants have necessary supplies. Rob Mutert, founder of Warp Core, noted the willingness of communities like Woodstock to help, but stressed the importance of advance notice for better preparation. Woodstock, along with 3 other suburbs, passed ordinances to fine bus companies for unscheduled migrant drop-offs. Despite doubts about the effectiveness of such measures, the towns aimed to address limited resources and infrastructure. By late January, all 4 suburban towns had adopted bus ordinances. McMahon, before the vote, organized welcome kits for new arrivals, symbolizing community compassion amid differing opinions on the migrant crisis. "We're trying to be a small, bright light on their journey," she said. "We can at least give them a leg up and a warm coat." Immigration crisis. The city saw a huge influx of newcomers earlier, setting a record for arrivals. According to reports from CBS 2 Shard Gray, many residents in the South Side are worried. Each bus that pulls in stretches the city's already thin resources, putting the administration under a serious test. The Department of Homeland Security officials note a significant increase in migrants crossing the U.S.-Mexico border illegally since the start of September. Border Patrol alone apprehended 7,500 migrants on a single Sunday. It's baffling considering the presence of razor wire and other security measures. This raises questions about the effectiveness of these barriers. Mayor Brandon Johnson is facing criticism for his handling of the situation. While some of the migrants might have noble intentions, concerns arise about the possibility of individuals with criminal backgrounds slipping through. Despite emphasizing the need to assist asylum seekers, Mayor Johnson is under fire for potentially overlooking the safety concerns associated with unregulated immigration. Critics argue that Mayor Johnson's policies, which prioritize migrant assistance, come at a high cost to the city's most vulnerable populations. Homeowners in the south and west sides of Chicago are particularly outraged. They believe that the city has overextended itself and should redirect the tens of millions of dollars designated for refugee support to address the long-standing issues in their neighborhoods. The South Side has been grappling with under-resourcing and poverty for decades. Schools remain closed, infrastructure is deteriorating, and economic opportunities are scarce. The sudden influx of funds for refugee support seems unjust when these neighborhoods have been neglected for so long. The frustration among residents is palpable. They feel sidelined and overlooked by city officials who seem to prioritize newcomers over the needs of long-standing residents. The disparity in resource allocation exacerbates existing inequalities and reinforces feelings of marginalization. There's a sense of urgency to address these concerns before they escalate further. Residents are calling for transparency and accountability from city officials. They want assurance that their voices will be heard and their needs will be addressed. Mayor Johnson's administration is under pressure to reassess its priorities and allocate resources more equitably. It's essential to strike a balance between providing assistance to newcomers and addressing the pressing needs of existing residents. The record number of arrivals earlier this week has highlighted the challenges facing the city of Chicago. Local authorities must address the concerns of long-standing residents while also providing support to newcomers. Failure to do so risks deepening existing inequalities and undermining community cohesion. Impact and controversy. Since its initiation, Texas has transported more than 105,300 migrants to various cities across the United States, aiming to alleviate the strain on its resources caused by increasing immigration. The program's commencement saw the arrival of the first batch of migrants in Washington, D.C. on April 2022, near the U.S. Capitol and Fox News office. Governor Greg Abbott spearheaded the initiative, dispatching approximately 12,500 migrants to the nation's capital and an additional 32,000 to Chicago. The sudden influx of migrants into these cities induced chaos and criticism from local officials, citing the lack of prior notification from Abbott's administration. New York City emerged as the principal recipient, with over 39,100 migrants, prompting accusations from city officials of Abbott politicizing the issue by directing migrants to Democratic-run cities. Mayor Eric Adams, while initially embracing newcomers, later declared a state of emergency as shelter capacities surged to accommodate the 61,000 migrants by October 2022. Notably, a significant portion of New York City's migrant population, estimated at 21,000, consisted of Chinese nationals who primarily entered the country through Arizona and California, bypassing Texas altogether. Unlike South American migrants often arriving destitute at Texas border cities, many Asian migrants possessed the means to reach their final destinations independently. Nevertheless, Texas border cities reluctantly participated in Abbott's program, offering free transportation to migrants willing to volunteer. Before boarding buses from cities like McAllen and El Paso, migrants are required to sign waivers. Among the popular destinations for these migrants are New York, Chicago, and Denver. The transportation program incurred a substantial cost for Texas, totaling $86.1 million between April 2022 and October 2023. Despite only beginning to receive migrants in May, Denver has accommodated 16,600 migrants from Abbott's initiative. Additionally, Abbott directed 3,400 migrants to Philadelphia and 15,000 to Los Angeles. While northern cities bemoaned the financial strain, smaller municipalities like Eagle Pass, Texas, experienced overwhelming surges, with 23,000 migrants arriving in just 1 week in December. Comparatively, New York City's annual budget dwarfs that of Eagle Pass, with the latter operating on a significantly smaller scale. Abbott attributed the surge in illegal immigration to President Biden's border policies, citing encounters of over 4.3 million migrants by U.S. Border Patrol in Texas since Biden's inauguration. Despite only relocating a fraction of these migrants, Abbott's program garnered nationwide attention and controversy. Following legal challenges against the bus program, Abbott adapted his approach, resorting to flying migrants into cities like New York and Chicago. He pledged to continue addressing what he perceives as a crisis resulting from the Biden administration's failure to secure the border. The challenge of housing migrants in Chicago. In Chicago, a contentious debate rages between advocates emphasizing humanitarian duty and critics accusing the mayor of neglecting locals. The city grapples with the urgent task of finding suitable locations to accommodate the influx of migrants. This dilemma epitomizes the delicate balance between compassion and pragmatism in addressing the pressing needs of both migrants and residents. Amidst the crisis, the city allocated a substantial $29 million budget to establish tent-based camps for housing migrants, reflecting an immediate response to the growing demand for shelter. However, the reality for many migrants is far from ideal, with reports emerging of individuals resorting to sleeping on floors and seeking refuge in police stations due to overcrowded shelters. While the Chicago City Council approves a significant $51 million to support migrants, expenditure records reveal an alarming $84 million already utilized for security, food, and lodging. Despite these substantial investments, emergency shelters remain overwhelmed, exacerbating existing challenges such as extensive public housing waitlists and unattainable affordable housing options. Critics argue that Mayor Johnson's focus on providing temporary housing for migrants worsens the city's housing shortage. They advocate for addressing the root causes of the issue rather than merely offering short-term solutions. Moreover, the strain on neighborhoods and concerns among Chicagoans regarding the city's capacity to sustain such generosity further intensify the debate. Mayor Johnson defends the administration's approach, emphasizing that temporary emergency shelters are not intended as permanent housing solutions. Instead, they aim to provide migrants with the necessary time to secure work authorization and find permanent housing. To this end, the administration extends a 6-day grace period to migrants entering the city's shelter system. However, critics contend that temporary shelters, while serving an immediate purpose, fall short of addressing the long-term housing crisis. Suggestions include decentralizing migrants to smaller towns in Illinois to alleviate pressure on Chicago's resources. They underscore the importance of implementing sustainable solutions that cater to the needs of all residents, not solely newcomers. The influence of Texas Governor Greg Abbott further complicates the discussion, as his actions, such as transporting migrants to sanctuary cities like Chicago, ignite additional debates. Governor Abbott attributes challenges faced by Texas border towns to the Biden administration's perceived failures in enforcing border security and managing immigration effectively. By positioning himself as a prominent figure in shaping immigration policy, Governor Abbott sparks discussions about the role of sanctuary cities and the federal government's responsibilities in managing immigration. Despite criticism for the human consequences of his assertive approach, his actions prompt reflection on the effectiveness of current immigration policies and the necessity of bipartisan solutions. The challenge of housing migrants in Chicago underscores the need for a nuanced approach that reconciles humanitarian obligations with practical considerations. As the city navigates this complex terrain, setting priorities, devising strategic plans, and implementing effective policies that cater to the needs of all stakeholders emerge as imperative tasks. Illinois expands intake center in Chicago. Illinois planned to establish a larger intake center in Chicago by January 2024 to assist migrants arriving by bus. A delivery truck carrying materials for the new center arrived in the South Loop on a Wednesday afternoon. Observers noted a significant increase in new arrivals over the past 2 weeks, with many migrants, including families with young children, seen arriving on foot from the suburbs via Metra trains, as reported by volunteers from New Life Centers. The designated site for the intake center is at 800 S. Des Plaines St., where 6 heated tents will be set up alongside the city's bus landing zone. This initiative aims to accommodate the surge of asylum seekers during the holiday season, as acknowledged by Eduardo Fuentes, Director of Community Care for New Life Centers, who estimated the recent influx to be in the thousands. In response to the escalating situation, the state plans to expand its personnel and services to expedite the processing of new arrivals, with a targeted reduction of shelter demand by 10%. Additionally, a new shelter is anticipated to open in Little Village, housed within a former CVS location, slated to accommodate up to 220 individuals. These efforts come amidst a broader migrant crisis, extending beyond the southern borders to impact the Chicago area. Reports from DuPage County indicate a significant influx of migrants, with 72 buses transporting nearly 3,000 passengers since mid-December. In response, Lockport City Council will vote on measures requiring pre-approval for unscheduled bus arrivals. Mayor Brandon Johnson has called for federal assistance, citing the need for comprehensive immigration reform to address the challenges faced by local communities. Suburban municipalities, including Hinsdale and Woodstock, have implemented regulations to manage incoming buses, with fines imposed on companies failing to provide prior notification. Woodstock's mayor underscored the resource constraints faced by local authorities in addressing the influx. Joliet's officials echoed the call for federal intervention, emphasizing the need for a coordinated national response. In solidarity, municipalities such as Buffalo Grove and Tinley Park have passed resolutions to deter unauthorized bus arrivals, reflecting the broader sentiment among suburban leaders grappling with the issue. However, Glen Ellen has opted not to impose restrictions on migrant movement within its jurisdiction. Currently, approximately 15,000 migrants are being accommodated across 27 shelters in Chicago, highlighting the pressing need for coordinated efforts to manage the situation effectively. Coping up with influx, Mayor Lori Lightfoot wrote to Texas Governor Greg Abbott, urging him to halt the transfer of migrants to Chicago. This plea reflects broader concerns over immigration in the United States. Financial records from Chicago's public portal reveal staggering expenditures in addressing the migrant crisis. Since September alone, $53.9 million has been allocated, totaling $138 million over the past year to assist new arrivals, prompting questions about where these funds are directed. During a visit to Washington, D.C. in November, Mayor Johnson disclosed that Chicago was spending $40 million monthly to cope with the influx of migrants. This significant expenditure highlights the strain on the city's financial resources. To combat homelessness, Mayor Johnson initiated the Bring Chicago Home initiative, aiming to raise funds for homeless support and shelter projects. A key component of this plan was a proposed change to Chicago's real estate transfer tax. Currently, all real estate transfers incur a flat tax rate. The proposed amendment would introduce graduated rates, reducing taxes for most properties while increasing them for higher value transactions. Advocates argue that this change would alleviate homelessness by generating additional revenue, but critics fear its potential adverse effects on small businesses and landlords. Funds generated from the proposed tax amendment would be exclusively allocated to support homeless individuals, providing affordable housing and essential services, and improving existing shelters. An advisory board would oversee fund allocations, ensuring transparency and community engagement. Despite these efforts, the referendum for this initiative failed to pass, reflecting concerns about its economic impact and distrust in government management. Former Alderman Leslie Hairston supported the initiative, but called for adjustments to mitigate its impact on small businesses and landlords. Republican strategist Aaron Delmaire attributed the referendum's failure to public skepticism about the government's ability to manage tax funds effectively. Despite setbacks, Mayor Johnson remains committed to addressing homelessness and managing the influx of migrants. However, the ongoing challenges posed by immigration and homelessness require a balanced approach. Addressing underlying issues such as border security and crime is crucial to ensuring the safety and well-being of both migrants and citizens. Chicago's struggle with immigration and homelessness underscores the need for comprehensive solutions. Balancing fiscal responsibility with humanitarian concerns is essential for the city's future prosperity and stability. We hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one.